I hope you can hear me, and happy Friday. So I'm back in Bali, and boy, is my soul happy to be in this frequency. It's so much easier to just embody the feminine when you're in a culture where Shakti, the goddess energy, is strong, and that's due to the fact that this is one of the two places on the planet where the main dragon lines of life force cross. And yeah, the volcanoes like Mount Agung, which are still live and active, means the life force is strong, to quote Yoda. So today I'm speaking about eating of the dark fruit. Now, Lilith, who you might know as Sekhmet or Oya or Kali Ma, but she is the dark goddess, and she governs our physical self. She's the serpentine goddess of Kundalini that awakens our life force, that calls us to be initiated, to enter into the mysteries, to ask those big questions so that we understand our place in the multiverse. And if we don't ask those questions, we're only really living a half life. So there comes a point where we do question our existence. Why are we here? Yeah, what is the point of my life? And that is what takes the psyche down into the underworld, into a place of perhaps feeling depressed, asking, is this all there is, you know? So in the ancient world, the dark goddess was venerated, she was honoured, and the whole of the ancient world would willingly go into the mysteries during the portal gates of, you know, the vortices, the times such as the solstices, the equinoxes, new moon, full moon. And again, here in Bali, you know, they're doing ceremony at those times. So, yeah, the goddess here is strong. Now, this morning I felt tempted to speak about cunnilingus, okay, the cunning linguist. And I kind of shied away from it. And then my landlord gifted me these. And I'll show them to you one at a time. These are indeed dark fruits. So this is my all-time favourite fruit in Gaia's garden. This is a mangosteen, not to be confused with a mango. It's a beautiful looking fruit. And at the other end, I'll try and hold it up to the camera, see those petals? That's how many quarts, oh God, there we go. How many quarts are in the piece? I'll open it up to show you. You break it by pushing it between the heels of your hand. There we go. And look at her. She's called the queen of fruit. Okay, look at those gorgeous white fleshy pillows, and they're so juicy and tangy. If you like passion fruit, this is sweeter, but as tangy. It's just divine. Then there is snake fruit, which I think looks a bit like a testicle. I'm not actually a huge fan of it, but the skin, look at this. Oh gosh, it's almost a reptile. And then we have rambutan, and again, it looks like a testicle. Look at that, a lovely big hairy ball. So these are exotic fruits. You get them in the exotic lands, the tropical lands, the jungle, which is where the life force is strong. You know, if there was something that happened to humankind, Gaia's jungle here would have covered all of the buildings in a very short amount of time. Everything grows at a very rapid pace because the life force is strong, because there's an intensity to the elements. Yeah, it's very hot, it rains a lot, and it's very wet. And just like us, when we get hot and wet, guess what? There's going to be some fertile action. So this is a place that accelerates our life force. Hence, a lot of people are coming for yoga and initiation. Not so much into Tantra, into the true feminine, into shamanism. So it was the wild woman, the archetypal dark goddess, who said we must taste of the dark fruits to become wise. And she wasn't literally referring to a mangosteen. God, I want to eat that. I won't speak with a mouthful. The juice is dripping on my table. Goodness. She's just like, hang on, try and get it in front of the camera. Yeah, baby. So this, represents the fruits, the mystic fruits on the tree of life. And we see the tree of life in the tarot card of the Lovers behind the woman, indicating that if we are to master the love arts, if we are to become an embodiment, a vessel of love, i.e. embody the divine, which is the goddess, if we're in a female form, or the god if we're incarnated into a male form, then we must taste of the dark fruits. And this is why in the ancient tantric wedding ceremony you'd slice an apple, which was considered the fruit of wisdom, of the fruit of the goddess. And when we slice it in half, horizontally, we see the five-pointed star, which was once revered as the symbol of Venus, because it represents earthly love, the 5 elements of earth magic. And now that the sun is in Taurus, the sign of earthly love, this is a good time to have this conversation. So the apple was demonized in the patriarchal doctrine in the Old Testament. In the myth that the Catholic Church, the cult of Rome created, they said that the apple was basically the fruit of the devil, which is what happened to everything that was once part of the sacred feminine tradition. It was demonized so that people wouldn't be initiated, wouldn't become wise, and instead would just swallow the book and do as they were told like good children and fear the patriarchal male sky god. So the apple is one version of the fruit of wisdom, depending on which part of the world you were. And Avalon, of course, was considered the apple isle, the place people would go for initiation in the Grail tradition in ancient Britannia, or Bridget's Isles as it was named before. The British Empire renamed it the British Isles. A fig, because it has so many seeds, and it's like eating a vulva, a fig. It is so, all the fibres in there, it's moist. A pomegranate was another fruit that was considered synonymous as the fruit of wisdom. Now, what all these three have in common is they have many dark, hard, bitter seeds. So even though the fruit itself is sweet and juicy, the seeds take a lot to chew, to digest, and they represent the bitter lessons that life initiates us with. And so, it was that we would have to go and seek the wisdom of the feminine to make sense of those bitter lessons and become wise. Otherwise, we would become bitter. We would close our heart. We would become fearful. We would not be loving. We would not risk looking like a fool for love because we hadn't digested those darker experiences and transmuted fear into love, into loving wisdom. So I was watching some stand-up comedy with a dear brother the other night, and it was hilarious. But the two guys had very different views about cunnilingus, of the oral worship of the vulva, the euphemism of the dark fruit. And this is the face of the dark goddess. Okay, so, like they say, as above, so below. When we kiss somebody, how they kiss will either turn us on below or not, because the tongue is connected to the heart. So when the embryo is forming, the tongue forms out of the heart. So it's very intimate to kiss somebody. You're literally touching their heart. So when we put our tongue onto a lover's genitalia, we are touching them with our heart, all right? It's not dirty, it's not, Anyway, getting back to this stand-up comedy. they were very opposed when it came to cunnilingus, the art of oral worship of a woman. One who had a bit of a tubby paunch, a bit of a tummy on him, loved to eat, obviously had an oral fixation. He loved to give women oral pleasure. In fact, he got off on giving pleasure. So this is a man who was sensually awake, okay, you know, turned on through his earthly senses, through food and through the oral worship of a woman. Whereas the other man, he was quite cynical. In fact, his comedy was much darker than the other man. And he was repulsed by the idea of cunnilingus, and he made a point of saying, especially in summer. So for him, this would intensify the flavour and the aromatics of a woman, you know, because, and I'm not saying don't have a shower before you, you know, make love, but, you know, the intensity of a woman, and this is, you know, if we think about a rose, the vulva is like the heart of the rose, yeah? It's the centre of the rose, the part that's most surrounded by all those petals. And the labia is like that, yeah? It's like the sacred opening, the doorway to the mysteries of death and rebirth, which I'm actually going to show you something. Some of you may have seen the album cover for the debut single for the soundtrack of my show that launched this week, and I'm sitting in quite a provocative pose. It's like this, okay? And the photographer had me straddling a big urn with an open mouth that looked like an open vulva, and we were all laughing our ass off during the photo shoot. But it's absolutely perfect because that pose is the pose of the ancient goddess Sheila Nagig. And this is why the colloquial term in Australia for a woman is Sheila. Hey, you're Sheila. It's because there were so many immigrants that came from Bridget's Isles where Sheila Nagig was absolutely honoured as the goddess of death and rebirth. So the show Yantra, I'm inviting people into my temple of Venus for initiation, into my portal of death and rebirth. So it's not, you know, hey, do you think I'm sexy, to quote Rod Stewart. It's more, come for initiation. And pun not intended, but I get the joke. So, loving the dark goddess. This is the ultimate turn on for a woman who has an empowered wild woman archetype. So if this is a woman who is comfortable in her body, who is comfortable with her menstrual cycle, who is comfortable with her erotic nature, her erotic power, her kundalini, her shakti, her life force. If this is a woman who is authentic, who will say what she means and means what she says, who isn't afraid to be naked, both physically but also as a soul, okay, on the understanding that a pretense is a lie, it's a deception, both to ourselves and to others. So if this sounds like you, chances are you're a woman that loves to be orally worshipped, all right? And this is for a partner, this is an opportunity to bow the ego and willingly say yes to an ego death. Okay, and that's what happens through the sex act. You know, when we say, oh God, guess what? We're surrendering all to existence, to a higher power, a higher intelligence of loving wisdom. And that's why the act of sex is so powerful, and why the patriarchal religions have demonized sex, because sex would awaken the psyche, the consciousness. Women are powerful, our sexual energy is powerful, our body temples are powerful, more powerful than going into a man-made structure that imitates a woman's body, such as a church, a synagogue, or a mosque. So this is what's at the heart of the misogyny of those three patriarchal religions, which have anchored misogyny as the status quo, because, you know, when we govern what people think, then we govern how they act. So this is why it's so important that people question the dogma, the doctrine that they've been conditioned into, and instead listen to their heart, to their conscience. Because our conscience, this is where God lives within us, yeah? And so we can know in an instant whether it is the path of highest wisdom, it is what love would do, or it isn't, if we just attune to our heart, okay? And when we are heart-directed, and it's so simple, a child knows right from wrong, a child knows how they feel inside. Yeah, if they kick a beetle, does it feel good or does that feel wrong, since all of life is sacred? So this is the shift that we're making from our heads, being told what to think, being told what is right and wrong, and being told that women are evil, women are an agent of the devil. No, women are an agent of Venus. Okay, we are absolutely hardwired for love, and it's why women love pleasure. Yeah, we love to eat of exotic fruits and to try new flavours, and we're the ones saying to our menfolk, come and eat this, come and try this. I want you to grow, I want you to have a new experience, to move beyond your fear and your rigidity of thinking. So it'll often be a woman that says, come and holiday in an exotic land, or come to the theatre, come and have an experience, come and do something out of the ordinary, so that you are challenged to outgrow who you were and what you thought defined you. So I'm going to say something a bit provocative now, as if I already haven't, but anyway, come with me, or not. It is a flag when a man or a woman will not honour a woman's vulva with their mouth, okay, and I'll explain why. This indicates a fear of the dark feminine. And the dark feminine is the agent of change, of, death and rebirth. So this is a flag that a lover is afraid of change, okay? And if you partner with somebody who is afraid of change, it will be the death of you. You will die a little bit every day because you try and accommodate their fear. Instead of growing, instead of doing the thing that scares you in order to challenge yourself, you will try to play small, to keep them safe, to stop them feeling uncomfortable. And in doing that, your soul will die a little every day, instead of your ego dying. Whereas if we choose a partner that challenges our ego, who our soul is so attracted to their luminescence, to their light, okay, that's what soul love is. And that was the secret of Aphrodite's beauty. It wasn't that she had perfect skin or breasts or butt or whatever, it was her light. It was her connection with spirit, how inspired she was. So somebody who is attractive to our ego, in other words, their physical body is what turns us on, is what ignites our animal lust, they will be the death of our soul, okay? Whereas somebody who lights us up on a soul level, yeah, if we feel our light body light up like a Christmas tree when we're around them, then there's somebody that will be the death of the ego, okay, which is a great thing, because the ego is the part that keeps us small, that is fear-based, that is ruled by the mind, the 10% rational mind. So if you are attracted to somebody who isn't your type, who may physically even repulse you at first, yeah, or annoy you, but you feel lit up when you're around them, then this is a connection worth pursuing. Now, I understand that the quote, "Eat of the dark fruit to become wise," is from the mysteries of the feminine. And, you know, this is why even self-pleasure is a great way of activating your kundalini. Yeah? So those of us who enjoy self-pleasure, we accelerate our wisdom, our connection with the divine. We are going to church often, so to speak. And it's an art. And the more that we become artful lovers towards ourselves, the more attuned we are to our yantra, our divine instrument, our light body, our soul. And the better we are at the art of lovemaking with another, the more sensitive we are to them in the moment, and the more we merge with their pleasure. So I wanted to look up where, you know, this demonizing of the dark fruits came from. And up pops Genesis. What a surprise. From the Old Testament. So I thought I might just deconstruct that a little bit, because this is literally the passage where the root of misogyny comes from. And misogyny is the fear of the feminine. Okay, that's what misogyny means. It's often understood as being the hatred of the feminine, but all hate comes from fear. And what the word misogyny means is the fear of the feminine. And that's not just fear of women, that's fear of the feminine traits. So men can experience internalized misogyny just as much as women can experience internalized misogyny. Yeah? So let's have a little read of Genesis, shall we? It says here, the serpent, and I'm quoting from the Bible, the serpent was more clever than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. So there we are. We're acknowledging at least the wisdom of the serpentine, the feminine. So why then should St. Patrick be celebrated for getting rid of all the serpents out of Ireland? Okay, what that is a euphemism for is destroying the ancient ways of the feminine, which is a way of worshipping both the land and the cosmos in alignment with the cycles so that we are sustainable. The serpent said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat fruit from any tree in the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden. You mustn't even touch it. If you do, you will die." Now that's an interesting statement. Now for me, I interpret that as the tree in the middle of the garden is Sushumna, the central pillar of wisdom. So the Shekinah, or the divine feminine principle, is the tree of life. This is the energetics of us. So when we send our roots from the base of our spine and the soles of our feet down into the center of the earth, we connect with the primordial fire of creation, the life force of the Great Mother, of Kundalini. And this awakens the serpent, which is the meridian of sacred feminine life force within us. And this spirals, like the DNA structure, up our spinal cord, and then flowers in the crown as a 1,000-petaled lotus, so that branches of the tree of life activate and we connect with the Divine Father. So this tree of life is what holds us, what holds the Holy Child between the earthly mother and the Sky Father, so that we don't feel anxious, we don't feel like we're alone, we feel held by the divine matrix, the yantra. So let's continue on with this doctrine. So the serpent says, you certainly will not die. God knows that when you eat fruit from that tree, you will know things that you have never known before. So you will awaken your consciousness. She goes on to say, this is the serpent, like God, you'll be able to tell the difference between good and evil. So you'll have awareness of the light and the shadow, the conscious and the unconscious, the aware and the ignorant. You'll be able to see with X-ray vision who is awake and who isn't. Awake to seeing the shadow, the unconscious thoughts and patterns and words and behaviours of both yourself and others. And you will recognise when God is speaking through someone, when they are channeling truth. This is what it is to awaken that meridian, to eat of the dark fruit on that sacred tree. So, let me digress for a minute. When we sup on that fruit, when we drink the nectar of Amrita, which is the sacred alchemical substance that a woman produces when she is experiencing pleasure from her vulva, you will awaken your consciousness. This is why sex has been demonized. Okay? Yeah. You will learn more from going down on a woman than you will going to church or to a mosque or a synagogue. So put your book away and learn how to love a woman. Anyway, oh, yes, the sermon from the Mound of Venus. Join me every Friday. So, and for the Lions Gate in Scotland, please come into my temple. So, to carry on with Genesis, the woman saw that the tree's fruit was good to eat. It was pleasing to look at. How could you not want to eat something that looks so amazing as that? What an incredible, inspired creation that is in the Garden of Eden. She also saw that it would make a person wise. And if we think again of the vulva, that is, you know, there's all this pressure on women to make it not look exotic, to make it not look hairy, okay? To make it look like it's prepubescent, like a little girl, like a bud, not a fruit. Because we start as a bud, and then we blossom, and then we fruit, okay? When we're able to create life by birthing a child out of our vulva. So it is confronting, it is scary, but to not be able to appreciate her exotic beauty is a sad thing, because your fear has masked your ability to see through the eyes of the heart with love. So getting back to Genesis, the woman took some of the fruit and ate it. She then gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. And then both of them knew things they had never known before. They realized they were naked. So they saw themselves clearly. They saw themselves through truth, through a true lens. They saw themselves through the eyes of God, not through the filter of a doctrine that skewed the truth in order to push an agenda of an empire. So this is where the ancient story is twisted. The next part, where it says they sewed together fig leaves and they made clothes for themselves. Then the man and the wife heard the good Lord walking in the garden. It was the coolest time of the day. They hid from him among the trees, but the Lord called out, "Where are you? I heard you in the garden." The man was afraid. Now, that right there tells us we're not dealing with God anymore. This is the great deceiver. We do not fear God. God is a benevolent, loving presence. In the presence of the true divine, our heart opens. We are in our heart. We are not in our mind. We are not contracted in fear. This is a flag. This tells us this is not the word of God. This is the word of man, distorting the word of God so that he can control women and so he can control men. Yeah, this is what has enslaved the 99%. Even if you don't believe in religion, We must deconstruct what is sitting in the subconscious of the group mind. Because when we as one fractal of energy are in the group mind, it has an impact on us. And this is why, for myself, I'm preferring to live now in feminine cultures. Yeah, because having awakened the true feminine, it is so painful to be in cultures where the distortion is so ignorant of the feminine. So from then on, they hide and they scapegoat the serpent. They say that she tricked us into eating the fruit. And this is the root of where the wild feminine, the dark feminine, is made the scapegoat. So people don't have to look at their fears. Yeah, they don't have to look at their unconscious behaviour. They don't have to look at where they've not been accountable to others or themselves, where they've broken their word, their agreement, not been in integrity. Easier to scapegoat the dark woman, the agent of change, the woman who brings up our stuff, than look at ourselves honestly. But it's through looking at ourselves honestly that we will re-enter the garden. We will return to the Garden of Eden, as Janis Joplin sang so beautifully after seeing the footage of Woodstock and seeing, yes, it's time for us to return to the garden, to live in the way of the goddess and the god, a balanced way, not demonizing the feminine in order to feel pure or righteous. So it was said, have a listen to this, because you ate from the fruit of the tree, and I warned you not to eat of its fruit. Yeah? Again, this is the doctrines, they only exist to the level of the solar plexus, the lower mind. They operate in terms of punishment, seeing everything in black and white, and you must do what you're told, and if you are not doing what you're told, you must fear punishment like a child in an abusive relationship with a parent. And he says here, I'm putting a curse on the ground because of what you did. Now, a curse is black magic, people. Anyone who understands magic, which is the conscious use or direction of energy, on the understanding that everything is made up of energy, understands the law of threefold. What we put out, what we set as an intention for ourselves or for another, comes back threefold. So anyone with any awareness of magic knows you would never put a curse on someone. You would never wish ill will on another. You would never be malevolent in your words, your deeds, or your thoughts towards another, because it will come back at you with 3 times the amount of force. So again, we have another flag with anyone who has eyes to see. This is dark magic, this doctrine. It's telling people that this dark lord put a curse on us. Now, a curse only has power over you if you believe in it. Okay? So, misogyny only has any power in this realm of 3D earth as long as people believe in these doctrines and fear that this dark magician will punish them if they honour the feminine, the wisdom of love. So he goes on to say, this is the punishment or the curse, right? All the days of your life you'll have to work hard. Now, my gosh, how many are working so hard, and it says it will be painful for you to get food from the ground. Yeah? So it says you will eat plants from the field, even though your ground produces thorns and prickly weeds. You'll have to work hard and sweat a lot to produce the food you eat. You were made of the ground. You will return to that when you die. You are dust. You will return to dust. So, I mean, my gosh, this is the legacy of the working poor, the 99% that are struggling every day just to make a living, just to put food on the table. It comes from this. We must deconstruct these dark spells that were placed on the group mind. So if this resonates with you in your body, if it feels like truth, the words that I'm speaking, if it sits well in your heart, I invite you to share this. Because while people may not know me or listen to me, they know you and they'll listen to you. And that's how we wake up, yeah? By listening to people that we love and respect. So this is how man was driven out of the Garden of Eden. It says that. By listening to this, by believing it, by thinking it was true, we can go back to the garden at any time. We just have to know the truth, which is the dark fruits are necessary for us to wake up. Yeah? So don't fear the evil eye of the dark goddess. Yeah, all these people that are wearing an evil eye or putting up an evil eye for fear of the dark goddess looking at them with the eye of truth, the eye that calls us out on our shadow, that says, I think you need to look at that. We need the evil eye. We need to take that descent, to look at ourselves plainly in a way that is confronting, maybe even painful. Because from that, we will develop self-love. And from that self-love, we will develop the ability to discern who is mature, who is capable of being loving, who is willing to face their fears to be loving, and who isn't. So, I hope that is helpful in some way for you. It's been a long transmission today. Thank you so much for watching. Those of you that have joined me live, Anna Maria, Katie McGinley, Faye Allison, you're the ones I can see. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for taking the time to watch it. I do appreciate it. And yeah, would love you to like and subscribe and share it. Thanks so much. See you next Friday.